Hi and welcome. My name is Rebecca, and you're about to learn about the three core wounds. I teach at a rehab in addiction and dual diagnosis facility. The clients that I teach this to do say this is a very sensitive topic. So if you are somebody who has, you know, a lot of trauma or hurt, make sure you have somebody to process this with, or reach out to me and we can process this together in a hypnotherapy session or an intuitive counseling session, whatever feels right for you. But this video is really about bringing this to awareness and light and knowing you have a choice in the matter of your healing. So, I learned about this on my own personal journey, somebody who suffers from PTSD, anxiety, depression, people pleasing, lack of boundaries, low self esteem. And when I started as a hypnotherapist, the reason why I became a hypnotherapist is because I didn't feel like what I was learning in, psychoeducation was giving me the fundamental root cause of what was going on for myself personally. When I found hypnotherapy, I felt like I could finally understand why we do what we do and what are the root causes, and I really resonated with that. So I'm coming from that perception when teaching about this. So the three core wounds are abandonment, betrayal, and rejection. This can happen on any timeline, but I do find that if it happens between the ages of the time you were born until about 8 years old, it really becomes part of our personality type. It really becomes part of my reaction, and it becomes deeply embedded in our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind, 95% of the time, is trying to keep me safe and alive by reacting based on the past. So this doesn't mean that you couldn't have been abandoned at 14 or 15 or 16 or 22, right? It just means that between the ages of 0 and 8, I might be in such a distortion of how I see myself in the world that I don't even recognize it. And this video is to help you bring this to light. So the first core wound is abandonment. Abandonment is like a feeling of being left behind and an incredibly deep loss. It's almost like a horrible, horrible heartbreak. Your universe falls apart and there's nothing to grab onto. When we get abandoned, we feel absolutely left behind. It's like death to the subconscious mind. And so we do everything we can to avoid being abandoned, because that's what the subconscious mind does. It always wants to avoid pain and go towards comfort. So if I am somebody who has an abandonment wound, I'm going to perhaps find myself reacting in abandonment. I find this in my clients who binge drink until they're blacked out and they don't remember anything that happened to them. These are people who light their lives on fire and wake up one day and they're like, what did I do? These are people who choose chaos and craziness because that's their comfort zone. This is all a sense of abandonment. Like I said, if you are somebody who has experienced abandonment between the ages of 0 and 8, you might find yourself re-experiencing abandonment in your life. Doesn't mean you don't love your family, doesn't mean you don't love your job, but if it's encoded into your cells, if it's encoded into the psyche, you might find yourself sabotaging yourself in abandonment, blackouts, addiction, isolation, not caring about your body, not giving a fuck about anything. Those are all things that come up with abandonment. The next one is going to be rejection. Okay, rejection is I hate myself, I hurt myself, and I don't feel I'm good enough. And so what happens in hunter and gatherer times, if we get rejected, right, we get isolated by the community, right? And this kind of ties into that abandonment wound too. We get isolated into the community, that's death. Isolation is death. And so rejection is a distortion that happens where I reject myself. No one is going to abuse me as much as I abuse myself. And that's what's happening with the rejection wound. If I've been rejected, meaning if I was told you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough, you need to be more of this, you need to get A+ to get my conditional love, you can't be approved of accepted if you are not the smartest, the brightest, the prettiest, the healthiest, the best looking. It's all conditional. So I hold myself up to this, and this is all subconscious, right? I hold myself up to this perfectionist idea of who I am meant to be. And if I don't meet that, I end up rejecting myself. I tell myself I'm not good enough. And so I reject myself by sabotaging myself in relationships. Like, nobody, as one of my clients said, nobody can hurt me as much as I hurt me because I emotionally cut myself. And that's a defense mechanism. It's like, you can't say anything to me because I've already said it to myself. I've already told myself how fat and ugly and disgusting I am. So if you say that to me, it means nothing to me because I've already hurt myself that much. That is rejection, is I don't feel I'm good enough to go after what I want. I'm not worthy, and therefore this shows up as laziness, boredom, insecurity, settling for less, not going after what we want because we are so full of rejecting ourselves. It's very much of a destructive criticism, distortion of who I am, and it cuts at my self-worth. The last one, which is my biggest trigger, is the betrayal wound. The betrayal wound is a deep loss of trust in authority, a deep loss of trust within myself. And I mistrust boundaries. I mistrust other people, and I don't feel I can be vulnerable and open because I have been betrayed. Betrayal is like, I trusted you and you hurt me so bad, and it creates that distortion that everybody's going to hurt me. So I might end up betraying other people because I learned to betray myself. When we get a core wound like abandonment, betrayal, or rejection from somebody else, we turn that within ourselves and then we practice that in relationships. Like that concept, right? Hurt people hurt people. And so I get hurt and I carry that hurt into every relationship I get into. So if I have a betrayal wound, my parents got divorced when I was 5 years old, and my father married a very abusive woman. And I went to him and I said, please ask her to stop. Ask her to stop talking horrible things about my mother. Please ask her to stop talking horrible things about my brother and sister. Please ask her to stop. But don't tell her I said anything. Next thing you know, she's coming into my room and she's screaming at me, how dare I ask my father for that? How dare I ask my father not to tell her to be any different, right? Honestly, I don't really remember the details. It was very overwhelming at the time. But that's a sense of an example of a betrayal wound. You trust your person who's supposed to love you unconditionally, and then they betray you. So you learn you're not worthy of respect. You're not worthy of asking for your needs to get met, because if you do, nobody's going to be able to hold up the other end. And so you learn to betray your sense of self. You learn to not trust yourself. You learn not to trust other people. And so you always settle for less. Because what's the point anyway? If I have my hopes up high that this person's going to love and respect me, they're just going to hurt me anyway. So might as well go to the bottom of the barrel, get my needs met, and take what I can get. And this is so subconscious, right? There's nothing wrong with any of us. And I really want to have compassion around this, because there's nothing wrong with us. It's just a deep sense of betrayal that makes me mistrust myself. So if you've watched this video so far and you got to abandonment, rejection, and betrayal, right, you might be recognizing a little bit all of these commingle, right? We might have one more than the other. One might stand out much more than the other one, but maybe they all kind of commingle. Maybe for some of us it's a spectrum, right? And I think that people that end up at a rehab and a dual diagnosis facility have all of these core wounds compiled. It creates a distortion of the I am mentality. And I lose myself in alcohol and drugs and food and porn and gambling. I lose myself because I abandon myself, I reject myself, and I betray myself. And that's so painful. And it's happening on such a subconscious reactive level. I have to numb that out. I have to find something outside of myself because I can't give myself what I need. So Those are the three core wounds, but what happens is those three core wounds compile together and then they produce shame. Shame is the I am unworthy of love, respect, and connection. Therefore, I hate myself, I betray myself, and I disconnect from myself and others. And this is really going to look like on the absolute side of the scale, active addiction, not giving a fuck, lighting my life on fire, having very low self-esteem, finding myself maybe being homeless, maybe not talking to anybody, going into isolation. This is the example I give of I'd rather sit in my dirty, nasty ass diaper than get a clean one because I don't know what that one's like. I don't understand the clean diaper, but I understand what it means to sit in my dirty, nasty ass diaper, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it gives me rashes, even though it makes me feel disgusting. I'm used to that. So when you are somebody who is dealing with these core wounds, they do produce shame. And shame is the sabotage. Shame is, what's the point? Fuck it. I don't care. Shame produces laziness, a trigger of boredom, a trigger of not being able to sit with myself, a trigger of social anxiety, a trigger of inability to connect, low self-esteem. I can't go after what I want. I settle for less. And this is so subconscious. This is going to create money scarcity and abusive relationships. I always accept the love I think I deserve. So these core wounds are going to create a sense of who I am. So the questions I want to ask you is abandonment, betrayal, rejection, and shame. How does this show up in your life? How does abandonment, betrayal, rejection, and shame show up in your life? How do you see it come up for you? When these do come up for you as a trigger, how do you feel it in your body? Is it hot? Is it cold? Does it feel like the air has left the room and you're suffocating? Does it feel like a knife wound to the heart? Right? How does this show up in your life? Because the more we can become aware of how this shows up in your life, the more we can heal it. You can label it. You can identify it. You can say like, oh, that's right. That's my abandonment wound. And I notice it because I will watch 8 hours of Netflix and eat two boxes of pizza, and time goes by. Or I find myself at the bottom of a vodka bottle and I don't remember the things I said to my wife last night. Or I wanted to go to that interview, but I ended up sabotaging myself by betraying myself by staying out too late the night before. Or I didn't ask the person I wanted to ask out because I'm not good enough to have that relationship in the first place. That's the rejection. And shame is a product of all of these things. So now that we understand core wounds, I always get to this part in the group and everybody's like, okay, we get it. It fucking sucks. Core wounds are shit. What can we do about it? So we're at the place right now where usually I would get that feedback where it's like, okay, I get it. Core wounds are awful. Like, how can I heal this now? So now we're going to go over the antidotes to the core wounds and how we're going to heal it. So the first one is the abandonment wound. Abandonment wound is I abandon my sense of self and I abandon the people I love and I abandon all I care and I say a big fuck it. So the antidote to abandonment wound, the healing to your abandonment wound is going to be discipline. Discipline is self-love. Discipline is consistency. Discipline is not about motivation. Motivation dies. Motivation is going to just kill us because if I don't feel like it, I'm not going to do it. So discipline is going to be all about my when and then. When I meditate, then I get my cup of coffee. When I go to the gym, then I can watch some Netflix. When I eat the salad, then I can eat the entree. Okay? When and then, that's going to be a sense of a discipline. Eat the toad first. Do what's hardest in the first thing in the morning. If it's that phone call, if it's the meeting, try to make it the first thing you do. If it's the gym or meditation, make it the first thing you do so you don't procrastinate, right? Get into your disciplines. Practice meditation. Make the phone calls. Do what's hard. Make your self-care a priority. Make your self-value and your self-love a priority. And if discipline is a struggle for you, reach out and get help for that, because that is going to be everything for your abandonment wound. If you are someone who thrives on chaos, discipline is going to be the key to your success. The next one is betrayal, the core wound of betrayal. The antidote for betrayal is integrity. Integrity is choosing courage over comfort. It's doing what's hard rather than what's fast and easy. Integrity is, I am going to honor my values and my intentions. I am going to be my best self today. I am going to practice self-trust. As soon as I find myself saying a little fuck it, a little it doesn't matter, a little I'll just do it later, as soon as I find myself catching my self-talk doing that, I'm going to pivot and do what I need to do to make it. That is everything. That is of integrity. And it doesn't matter who's around or if I'm alone, I'm going to make it because I'm going to be okay, because I'm going to make it okay. I am going to value, love, honor, and respect myself. I'm going to ask for my boundaries to be respected, and I'm going to respect other people's boundaries. That means when someone says no, I respect it. That means when I say no, I expect it to be respected. Integrity is, I'm going to align to my best self, and getting really clear on what that looks like. Last one is rejection. The rejection antidote is going to be self-acceptance and positive self-talk. So if you think about it, rejection is the destructive, negative, critical things we say to ourselves. That means that I need to practice self-acceptance, self-love, and tenderness to myself. You know what? I know I'm scared, but it's going to be okay. I am enough. I love these qualities about myself. I'm a good person. And start noticing the good qualities you do throughout the day. Notice how you show up for the world. Notice when you make people smile. Notice when people give you positive feedback. Keep a compliment journal. Notice the good things that you do throughout the day. The brain holds on to negatives 10 times stronger than anything positive. So it's going to take effort to notice the good qualities you are doing. Notice the good feedback you are getting, and start showing up in that way. And if you can't find good positive qualities, that means that you do need help from a helpful professional to show and give you light on that distortion, so we can stop getting into distortion and get into alignment. All of these are going to heal that shame wound. And what's going to end up happening is you're going to say, I am worthy of love, respect, and connection. Shame, the antidote to shame is empathy. Empathy is, I'm going to feel my hurt. I'm going to feel my pain. I'm going to acknowledge it and not run away from it and not deny it and not minimize it. I'm going to sit with it, and I'm going to love it. And I'm going to be tender and nurturing and compassion to myself, because I'm going to understand the wisdom of what this pain has caused me. Okay, so the antidote to shame is empathy. And that's why coming to hypnotherapy or getting a healing practitioner that you feel a great sense of rapport with, that you feel like you can open up to these sensitivities and be held in a present, safe, compassionate, empathetic way is such a healing. Going to groups where you can talk about this, going to a women's group or a men's group or just a group in general to talk about these wounds and getting held in empathetic space is such a healing. We're all striving for connection. So our job, our intention is to recognize when these core wounds show up, recognize them, and then pivot to that self-love. It's going to be a sense of discipline, integrity, self-acceptance, and self-love, and holding empathetic space for my being. If you want help with this, if you want support, please feel free to reach out for a session. You can go to www.thriveinlifehypnosis.com. Direct message me. I am here to hold a lot of healing and a lot of space around these subjects, and that's what I do. I hold a lot of healing in space. I've healed myself with this, and I'm here to help you heal this with you. May you have a beautiful day. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.